People and idols are worried that RM might get banned or harmed during the release of the new song Stop the Rain. People are also talking about the song and it potentially being banned in other countries, and then the song has legal action taken. So dumplings is safe to say, let's get into it. The current release of the song Stop the Rain has definitely garnered a lot of attention. There are some themes in the song that we definitely have to talk about. We will get into all of that later, but there is some really good news before we get into some of the more, let's say, negative news. The song has been added into the Korean Copyright Association. What this means is the song is officially copyrighted, so if you take any lyric from Stop the Rain or you take the beat of any of that stuff, RM and Tablo could potentially own that new song or need to get writing credit, or would either need to take a royalty of that new song, or that song would just have to not exist. This is amazing, but quite honestly, this should have been done before the song was even released at all. So it was definitely interesting that it was done right after the release. However, I can totally understand them wanting to do it after the release, because once it's copyrighted, it's very public. So then they don't want to spoil the song before it comes out. This is obviously very different than if you and I were to copyright something, because no one would be looking it up or be aware that we're doing it. But obviously a lot of people are looking up RM almost every day, so it would have leaked the release. People were talking about what this means, and a lot of people were saying that RM is now the youngest credited artist ever, specifically over 231 songs. I had to do some research because oftentimes a lot of K-pop sites and fan pages will say things without it actually being checked. So I just wanted to make sure that this was actually true, and it was. He is believed to be the youngest currently with that amount of credit songs. The reason why I emphasize this and say this is because this is very important. It is extremely important to say these things factually. There is this need of the K-pop community to rebuild their reputation off in telling the truth or telling things factually, because a lot of people tend to think that K-pop fans just wake up and lie. So it's important to say these things because it's important to give credit where credit is due, and if RM was not the youngest most credited artist, then it would be very disrespectful to not credit who the actual person is. It makes RM look bad, right? Because it's his fans that are perpetuating this. Fortunately, in this case, it does seem like it's true. There are definitely other artists that come close, but he is now the official most credited artist, which is amazing. He's been featured in a lot of different songs. That makes sense, as rappers tend to be featured, and then he also has a bunch of his own songs as well. It's cool that the songs go through this legal process, and it kind of ends up being this thing where it can't be stolen, it can't be mistaken for not them, you know what I mean? And the song definitely is picking up steam in a different direction a little bit. As of recording right now, the actual controversy that I am about to talk about isn't big, but I doubt it'll get bigger because of me. I think it's something that is still worth talking about and something that can be stomped while it is still small right now. There was an interview that happened not too long ago where Tablo was asked about the song, and specifically asked about RM, and he mentioned that he would have finished the song much quicker if it wasn't for the fact that RM was on it. And I doubt it was because RM took a really long time, but I think it's because he was looking for a feature and he wanted to make sure that RM got the time that he needed with the song. He also mentioned that he was okay with releasing the song right away if it was just him, because if it was with RM, he wanted to take precaution given the fact that RM and his community could be a little bit more sensitive. I don't fully know what that means. Obviously there are darker parts of the song, but it's not like RM hasn't released darker songs in the past before. So this definitely would not be something that would be very different from what he's released before. And there's a huge audience that is already built into the ARMY community that likes content like this. But of course, it's always very sweet to think about that, being aware of the community and all that stuff. They want to make sure that everything is done properly and went through the proper channels, and it was checked to make sure everything was good. There probably were some edits that happened where the label probably was like, oh, we can't really say that or do that. That's a bit too controversial for our community, or whatever. The specific phrasing that Tablo said in the interview was that he didn't want to harm RM in any way, and that song could be blocked or banned in certain countries, or just being harmed, or maybe the term being harmed could mean in terms of fan backlash. It's really sweet to think about these things because it's a little bit of a drain, in my opinion, in order to think about stuff like this. And of course, everyone in K-pop is very privy to the idea that they have to think about these things, but it of course makes it difficult for people to want to do collaborations with each other, and they will have to think twice about who they want to work with, which of course is probably just going to end up with them being like, okay, let me just do it myself. So I hope in the future the community loosens up on things like this, and I hope we get to start to see more people doing collaborations and working together, because I think it will be mutually beneficial. K-pop is a community that is very vast and big, but at the same time it's very small. There are definitely a lot of people, and it's hard for one artist to reach everyone. So having a collaboration will set the stage for a lot of artists to be able to reach the entire community. Now, the song itself has definitely gotten some controversy due to just what the general meaning of the song is. The song talks about depression, sadness, sadness and potentially taking one's own life. If you're unaware of what the 27 Club, it's the time in which a lot of iconic artists had taken their own lives. Artists that you might know are ones like Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix, and of course even somewhat what happened in the K-pop community with SHINee's Jonghyun. They were all around the age of 27 and they were all contemplating taking their own life, and of course did. Apparently RM talked about feeling kind of similar in that way, which is really depressing. The music he released at the time was talking about being happy with life, and people thought that it was just him making music to make people feel better, but he was likely making a lot of music like that for himself as well, and stuff that he could listen to really drill in his own head that being alive is better than not being alive. It is good to be around, and bad times do pass, but you'll never get to see those bad times pass if you choose to end your life short. I'm sure these are thoughts that a lot of us face, so it's interesting that there would be this fear or backlash or attack over topics like this when it's one that I think most people find really relatable. Now, are songs like this to ever hit the mainstream or really be published everywhere? Probably not. Back in the early days, a lot of BTS music was banned on TV and radio, and it ended up feeling very indie to listen to them because it was only available to be listened to online and you really couldn't hear it anywhere else. But I don't really know how Korea is at this time with music like this. I think they're open to it at this point, but back then they were definitely not, and it was very taboo to sing topics like this. So singing about ending your own life or depression or domestic abuse or whatever were all things that they could not air on any mainstream platform. And of course, in turn, that means a lot of their music ended up being banned on the airways. This of course sets the way for them to be a little less respected in a lot of aspects, as we know that the boys were very much attacked a lot when they were much smaller. People took it as they couldn't get radio play because their music wasn't popular enough, rather than it being ineligible for radio play in terms of popularity, but it not being eligible in terms of the content itself. Now fast forward RM making the song, and it's really openly talking about taking one's life and depression, all that stuff. Meanwhile, a lot of the music that BTS had in the past were definitely not openly talking about it, but more so hinting towards those topics rather than outwardly saying it. A lot of people have concerns about this new song being even more controversial than a lot of the old songs that the BTS members had released, saying that it likely could get banned in Korea or other parts of Asia. For example, places like China and Vietnam are very censored when it comes to topics like this. And to some degree, I understand why, because it then starts to become a trend to be depressed or to talk about wanting to end your life. And of course, these topics are not anything that should be considered a trend. These are topics that people are heavily dealing with and are not great things to be dealing with. However, if these are topics that you're hearing on the radio, that you're seeing on TV, then it becomes this thing where a lot of young people are going to be like, it's a trend to be sad, let me be sad too. However, that's just a theory. Another theory could just be the fact that they just don't want this conversation to be had because they feel like the conversation doesn't exist, and then the topic doesn't exist, and they don't want people to realize what their feelings are, depression, sadness, or wanting to take their own life. So yeah, it's just to clarify, these are both just theories. I'm not saying that for sure this is the reason why music like this is banned over there. Now, fortunately, as of now, the songs have not been banned anywhere, but people have been talking about the concerns and what could happen in the near future, and if this is something that will actually happen. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thank you for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.